The forest was alive with whispers, the wind weaving between the ancient trees like it carried secrets. Ilara moved cautiously through the underbrush, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. She had always felt a strange pull toward this place, a wild energy that thrummed beneath the soil, beneath the roots, as if the land itself was alive. Tonight, under the silver glow of the moon, that feeling was stronger than ever. She paused at a clearing where the moonlight spilled across a shallow stream, reflecting in ripples like scattered glass. Her heart beat faster. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. Somewhere nearby, she thought she heard the soft padding of feet that weren't hers. Ilara turned, her hand instinctively brushing against the hilt of the small dagger she kept at her waist. She was not entirely defenseless, she had learned to survive, but whatever was out there, it was not human. A rustle behind her. A low growl. Before she could react, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, broad, and impossibly powerful, the man, or something more than man, stood there. His eyes glowed a pale amber, sharp and piercing. Fur covered his arms and chest in patches, blending into the darkness like a predator born from the night itself. Ilara froze, realizing with a jolt that this was no ordinary man. "He was a werewolf, you shouldn't be here," the creature said, his voice deep, commanding, and dangerous. Each word resonated with authority that sent a shiver down her spine. I was just passing through," Ilara stammered, taking a cautious step back. "I didn't mean to—" He cut her off with emotion, his eyes narrowing. "The mark," he murmured, almost to himself, his gaze fixed on her. "It should not be," Ilara frowned. "Mark, what are you talking about?" The Alpha's brow furrowed. "I was supposed to mark another. Not you." His eyes flickered with something, regret, confusion, maybe even fear. And yet there was power in his presence that made her knees feel weak. Before she could ask another question, he moved with inhuman speed, placing a hand on her shoulder. The touch was electrifying, and she felt something stir within her, a heat that wasn't entirely physical. It was as if her very soul had been awakened. I didn't mean," she began, but he shook his head, his gaze intense. "Too late," he said. "The bond is done." Ilara pulled back instinctively. "Bond, what does that mean?" "I don't understand." Kale, for that was his name, the Alpha, looked at her with a mixture of frustration and something else she couldn't name. "You are marked. By right of the pack, by the law of the moon, you belong to me." She blinked, trying to process the words. Belong to him? She was human. No, she refused to believe it. "I don't belong to anyone." Her voice trembled with fear and defiance. "You do now," he said simply. There was no anger in his tone, only certainty. His hand lingered near hers, the scent of him overwhelming, wild, earthy, and undeniably powerful. For a moment, the forest seemed to close in around them, the shadows thickening, the air charged with tension. Ilara felt her heartbeat racing, but not just from fear. Something primal within her stirred, a reaction she could not fully understand. Kyle studied her silently, his sharp eyes scanning her features as if searching for a weakness. "You should leave," he said finally, "before the others sense the bond and come for you." Ilara's stomach dropped. "Others? What others?" "Rival packs." The thought hit her suddenly, the pieces falling together. The mark, the bond, it was not just about him. It was about power, territory, survival. And somehow she was at the center of it. Before she could respond, a sound shattered the tense silence. A howl, deep and resonant, echoing through the trees. Kale stiffened, his ears twitching. "They know," he growled, his body tensing like a coiled spring. Ilara stepped back, fear coursing through her. "Who? What do you mean?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he grabbed her arm gently but firmly, dragging her into the shadows. "If they find you marked, they will kill you. And me," he added under his breath. Her pulse raced. "Wait, I don't understand." "Why me? Why did this happen?" Kale's jaw tightened. "It was a mistake," he admitted. "I was supposed to mark a shifter, a member of my pack, to strengthen the bloodline. But as you appeared at the wrong place at the wrong time. And now?" His eyes softened for a fleeting moment. "Now you are part of this world whether you want to be or not." Ilara shook her head, the forest spinning around her. She wanted to run, to escape, but every instinct screamed that she couldn't. Not from him, not from the mark, not from what had just been set in motion. They moved silently, Kyle leading her through hidden paths that seemed invisible to the ordinary eye. He explained little, but she noticed the tension in his every movement, the constant readiness, the alertness to danger. Something deep and primal had been unleashed the moment he touched her, and it was not just the mark. As the hours passed, they reached a secluded glade bathed in moonlight. Kale gestured for her to sit by a small stream while he patrolled the perimeter. "You must rest," he said. "The night is not safe. They will come for you." Elara's hands trembled as she sat, the cool water of the stream lapping at her fingers. She felt the weight of what had happened pressing on her chest. She had been marked, bound to a creature more powerful than she could imagine. And yet, as terrifying as it was, a strange part of her could not deny the pull she felt toward him. Kale returned, moving with quiet grace. "The bond. It will grow stronger over time," he said almost in a whisper. "It will connect us in ways you cannot yet understand." She looked up at him, anger and confusion swirling in her eyes. "I don't want this. I never asked for it." "I know," he replied, his voice low and calm. "And yet it is done. The mark is real. You cannot undo it. The only thing left is to survive." The tension between them was palpable, a tightrope stretched between fear and fascination. Elara wanted to resist, to fight, to run, but the forest itself seemed to hold her in place, and Kyle's presence was magnetic, undeniable. She felt her body respond against her will, every nerve alive with the pull of something ancient and wild. A sudden howl tore through the night. Closer this time, urgent and threatening. Kale's ears twitched. His muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. He placed himself between her and the edge of the forest. "They are coming," he warned, his amber eyes glowing in the moonlight. Elara's breath caught. Who is coming?" "They know," he said simply. And then, with no time to explain further, he transformed. In an instant, his human form blurred and shifted. Fur sprouted along his limbs. His teeth elongated into sharp canines, and his eyes glowed even brighter under the moon's gaze. The Alpha's power radiated from him, a living storm of strength and danger. Elara stumbled back in awe and fear, unable to look away. She had heard stories of shifters, of course, but nothing like this. He was magnificent, terrifying, unstoppable, and he was bound to her now. The pack came crashing through the trees, shadowy shapes, snarling, moving with lethal intent. Kale's growl echoed, a sound that carried the weight of command and fury. "Stay close to me," he ordered, his voice now a rumble that vibrated through the ground. Elara nodded, gripping his arm instinctively. Her heart pounded, but beneath the fear, a strange exhilaration stirred. She was alive in a way she had never felt before, caught between the terror of the unknown and the pulse of a bond she could not escape. Kyle met her gaze for a fleeting moment, and she saw something there: regret, protectiveness, and the tiniest spark of something that looked dangerously like care. The forest exploded into chaos as rival shifters attacked. Kale moved with deadly precision, defending her with the ferocity of a true alpha. Elara watched, her fear mingling with awe and a strange, undeniable attraction. And in the midst of the battle, as the moonlight shimmered across his fur and the mark on her wrist pulsed like a heartbeat, Elara realized that nothing would ever be the same again. She had been marked by the Alpha, and by mistake her life had been changed forever. The night had passed in restless silence. Elara could still feel the warmth of Kale's presence, even when he stepped away to patrol the perimeter of their secluded glade. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of wind made her heart beat faster. The mark on her wrist throbbed, a steady pulse she could not ignore. It was as if the forest itself recognized the bond and perhaps the danger that now tied her to Kale. By the first light of dawn, Kyle returned. He had shifted back to his human form, but the wildness in his eyes remained. He looked at her with a mixture of concern and frustration. "You need to understand," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "The mark is more than a symbol. It links us. It connects our emotions, our senses, our power. It cannot be ignored." Elara clenched her fists. "I don't want to be connected to you. I never asked for this. I don't even know who you really are. What you really are." Kale's jaw tightened. "You will learn whether you want to or not. And the others, the pack. The rival shifters, they will learn too. You are no longer safe." Elara's stomach nodded. "Safe? I was never safe, not in this forest, not in my own life. But at least I could pretend now." She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. The truth was too terrifying. Cale stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "I will protect you," he said simply, almost as if it explained everything. But the words felt like a double-edged sword, comforting and yet a reminder that she was now bound to him. The day passed slowly. Cale taught her how to sense danger in the forest, how to feel the subtle vibrations in the earth, how to notice the shadows that moved unnaturally. At first, Ilara struggled. Her human senses were no match for the heightened awareness the mark had awakened. But as hours turned into lessons, she began to feel something stir within her, something that was neither fear nor weakness, but strength. By nightfall, she could feel the power coursing through her veins, tied to the rhythm of the moon above. It was intoxicating, frightening, and exhilarating all at once. Cale watched her closely. "You are learning faster than I expected," he said, his voice low. "But that power is dangerous. Not just to you, but to everyone around you. You must control it, or it will control you." Ilara turned to him, her eyes wide. "Control it how? I barely understand what it is." He stepped closer, his gaze intense. "By trusting it. By trusting yourself. By trusting me." Her chest tightened. She wanted to reject him, to run, to scream that she was her own person. But there was something in the way he looked at her, something that went beyond dominance, beyond the mark. There was concern, a fierce protectiveness, and perhaps even longing. Before she could respond, the air shifted. The scent came first, a familiar, dangerous scent that made her stomach clench. Another pack. Not friendly. They had sensed the mark. Cale's ears twitched, his body tensing. "Stay behind me," he commanded. "And do not move unless I tell you." Ilara nodded, her heart pounding. She could feel the power of the mark flare in response to the threat. A connection to Cale she did not yet understand. The forest seemed to darken around them, shadows deepening unnaturally, as if even the trees feared what was coming. The rival pack appeared at the edge of the clearing, figures moving silently, deadly, eyes glowing in the moonlight. Cale shifted again, his form blurring into the wolf that was his true nature. He moved with such speed and precision that it made Ilara dizzy just to watch. She felt the mark pulse, a pull she could not resist. Suddenly, she understood something Cale had not said aloud. She could sense the danger, too. She could feel the vibrations of the ground, the shift in the air, the faint movements of each predator. Instinctively, she stepped forward, raising her hands in an attempt to focus the energy inside her. A spark of power burst through her, a pulse that knocked back the nearest attackers. The rival wolves recoiled, growling in confusion. Cale's eyes widened slightly. "You did that?" he asked, his voice a mixture of surprise and approval. Ilara shook her head, both terrified and exhilarated. I don't know how, it just happened." Kyle lowered himself slightly, his wolf form still powerful, still deadly, but now more controlled. "The bond amplifies your abilities. You are stronger than you realize, but you must learn to control it, or it will consume you." The night passed in a blur of movement and shadows. By the time the rival pack retreated, Ilara was exhausted but alive. She could feel the connection between her and Cale growing stronger, almost overwhelming. The mark burned faintly against her skin, a reminder of the bond she could not escape. Cale shifted back to human form, his chest heaving, eyes dark with intensity. "You are remarkable," he said quietly, as if confessing something he had not meant to. "But you are also a danger to yourself and to me." Ilara's lips parted, searching for a response. She wanted to say something clever, defiant or angry, but all she could manage was, "I don't want to be a danger." He looked at her long and hard. "You are not just a danger. You are power, and power must be respected." The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and intoxicating. Ilara could not decide whether to feel proud or terrified. She could feel the pull of the bond more strongly now, a magnetic force that drew her toward Cale even when she wanted to pull away. The following days were tense. Cale insisted on teaching her not just to survive, but to master the energy that the mark had awakened. Every lesson was a test, every touch a reminder of the connection between them. He was patient, strict, and at times infuriatingly commanding. Yet she began to notice moments when his guard slipped. A small smile, a hand brushing hers accidentally, a gaze that lingered too long. Ilara struggled with her own emotions. She did not want to care for him. She did not want to be bound to a man who had claimed her without consent. And yet there was something in him, something wild, powerful, and human beneath the alpha's exterior, that drew her in despite herself. One evening, as the sun set and the forest turned gold and red, Kyle led her to a small ridge overlooking the valley below. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and she could feel the pulse of the forest beneath her feet. "You are changing," Kyle said, his voice softer now. "The mark is not just on your body. It is in your mind, your spirit. You are becoming more than human." Alara frowned. "I don't know if that's good or bad." Kyle stepped closer, his gaze intense. "It is what it is, and soon others will see it too. The power you carry, it will make you a target, but it will also make you strong." Alara swallowed hard. She wanted to argue, to deny the truth, but deep down she knew he was right. She could feel the strength inside her, a fire that had lain dormant for years, and she could feel the pull toward him, fear, frustration, and something more, something she could not yet name. The night came, and with it, the distant howl of a rival pack. Alara's pulse quickened, not just from fear, but from anticipation. She had learned to sense danger, to react, to fight, and she had learned to trust Kale, at least enough to know that together, they were stronger than any pack that would challenge them. Yet as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation, Alara felt a sudden, sharp pulse from the mark on her wrist. It burned brighter than ever, and she realized something terrifying. The bond was more than a link between her and Kale. It was a signal, a beacon that others would sense. And if she could feel it growing, she knew others could too. Kale noticed her sudden tension. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. "The mark, it's stronger," Alara whispered. "Something is coming." Kale's eyes darkened. "Then we have little time." He reached out, placing a hand over hers. The connection flared instantly, a surge of warmth and power that made her knees weak. "Whatever comes, we face it together," he said. Alara met his gaze, her own fear mingling with something she could not deny. She did not fully trust the bond, but she could not ignore it either. And deep down she knew the next days would test everything, her courage, her power, and her heart. As the wind howled through the trees, carrying distant, threatening howls, Alara realized the truth. The mark had awakened her, bound her, and changed her life forever. And now there was no turning back. Ending hook. The distant howls grew louder, closer, and more menacing. Alara felt the mark pulsing violently, almost like a warning. She looked at Kale, and his expression was deadly serious. "They're coming for us," he said. "And this time we may not survive unless we fight as one." The forest trembled under the weight of approaching danger. Alara could feel it in her bones, the pulse of the mark stronger than ever, thrumming like a warning. She stood beside Kale on a ridge, the wind whipping her hair around her face. His eyes glowed amber, fierce and focused, scanning the dark tree line for movement. "They're coming," Kale said, his voice low, calm but heavy with the power of command. "We cannot run. We fight." Alara swallowed hard. Fear surged through her, but so did determination. The past days had changed her. She had learned to sense danger, to channel the strange power of the mark, to react and trust herself. And now she realized she was no longer just someone marked. She was part of something greater. The first shadow moved like a ripple through the trees. Then another. Soon, dozens of figures emerged. Rival shifters, eyes glowing like distant embers, bodies tense and ready for battle. Their leader stepped forward, a towering wolf with silver fur exuding menace and authority. Kale stepped in front of Alara, his form shifting seamlessly into his wolf shape. Fur bristling, muscles coiled, he growled, a sound that echoed through the forest, deep and commanding. "Stay close to me," he warned. Alara nodded. She felt the mark pulsing, responding to Kale's presence and the threat before them. A surge of energy ran through her, sharpening her senses. She could hear the rival wolves' footsteps, smell their fear and aggression, and feel the tension vibrating through the earth. When the battle began, it was chaos. Shadows darted through the trees, the sound of growls and snarls cutting through the night. Kyle moved like lightning, striking with precision, defending her from the first wave, and then instinctively Alara acted. The mark flared, sending a pulse of energy that forced back several attackers. She did not know how she did it. It was instinct. The bond, the power flowing through her. Kale's eyes widened in surprise and pride. "Good," he called, even as he dodged another strike. "Trust it. Trust yourself." Alara's confidence grew. She stepped forward, her movements fluid, controlled. The forest seemed to bend to her awareness, shadows moving around her, the wind carrying whispers of warning to the rivals. Every step she took, every motion felt like a dance, wild, powerful, and dangerous. Kale fought beside her, and for the first time, she truly understood what it meant to be connected. Every movement, every decision, every heartbeat, they were in sync. The mark was no longer a chain. It was a bridge, a bond that made them stronger together. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes, and slowly the tide of the battle shifted. The rival pack, realizing their attack was failing, began to retreat, slipping back into the shadows from which they had come. Kale's growl followed them, a warning that they would pay if they returned. When silence finally settled over the forest, Alara collapsed to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Kale shifted back to human form and moved toward her, his expression a mixture of relief and awe. "You did well," he said softly, his hand brushing hers. The touch sent a warmth through her chest, a reminder of the bond that had both frightened and empowered her. Alara looked up at him, her own breathing ragged. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't even know I had the power." Kale smiled faintly, a softness in his gaze she had not seen before. "The power was always within you. The mark only awakened it. You are stronger than you realize, Alara, stronger than many shifters I have known." For a moment they stood in silence, the night settling around them like a protective blanket. Alara felt something shift inside her too, a warmth, a trust, a connection that went beyond fear or duty. The bond was no longer a mistake. It was a choice, a partnership, a promise. "Kale," she began, unsure of her words. Why me? Why the mark?" He looked at her, his expression serious. "I cannot explain why fate chooses who it does. But I can tell you this. I will not let you face this world alone. You are mine in more ways than the mark allows. Not because I demand it, but because I choose it. Because I care." Alara's heart skipped. The words were not easy. Not romantic in the ordinary sense, but in the wild, dangerous and untamed world they inhabited. They were profound. She felt her own fear and resistance melting into something else. A trust she had never known. A courage she had never felt. They returned to the glade, where Kale had prepared a small fire. The warmth of it was comforting, but it was his presence beside her that truly grounded her. She had learned much in the past days. The forest, the pack, the rival shifters, but most of all, she had learned about herself. The mark pulsed gently against her skin, not as a chain, but as a heartbeat in tune with Kale's. She realized now that it was not just a connection of power, it was a connection of heart. As the night deepened, Kale spoke quietly, almost to himself. "There will be more challenges. The mark will draw attention. There are others who would use it, exploit it, or destroy it. But you are ready. Together we can face anything." Alara looked at him, the shadows of fear and doubt replaced by resolve. "Then we face them together," she said firmly. "Whatever comes, I will stand with you." Kale's eyes softened, a rare and fleeting vulnerability breaking through the fierce alpha exterior. "Good," he said, "because I cannot imagine standing against this world without you." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of the forest and the distant mountains. For a moment the world felt infinite, wild, and free, and in that wildness Alara understood the truth of her new life. She had been marked by mistake. Yes, but that mistake had led her to strength, to purpose, and to a bond that was as unbreakable as it was unexpected. They stayed by the fire, silent but together, as the moon rose high above the trees. Alara felt the pulse of the mark, steady and strong in harmony with Kale's heartbeat. It was no longer a source of fear. It was a guide, a warning, a connection, and a promise. In the distance the forest breathed, alive with unseen eyes and hidden movements. There would be more challenges, more threats, more rivals who would test them, but for now they were safe. Together, they were unstoppable. Alara leaned back against Kale, feeling his strength and warmth. "I never wanted this," she admitted softly. "But I think I understand now. Maybe it wasn't a mistake at all." Kale's lips curved in the faintest of smiles. "Perhaps not," he said. "Perhaps it was always meant to be." The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and distant storms. Ilara felt the wild energy of the forest around them, but inside her there was a calm she had never known. The bond was no longer a mistake, it was her strength, her connection, and the beginning of something neither she nor Kale could have foreseen. As the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the Alpha and the marked human sat side by side, united not by chance but by choice. The forest was quiet now, the echoes of danger fading, and for the first time Ilara felt free. But deep in the shadows beyond the glade, unseen eyes watched, alert and calculating. The mark was powerful, and there were those who would seek it. The journey was not over. The bond was only beginning, and somewhere beneath the silver light of the moon, a faint pulse echoed through the forest, a reminder that fate had marked her for a reason, and that the next challenge would demand all the strength, courage, and trust they had to offer. Ilara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The forest, the mark, Kyle, everything was a part of her now. Whatever came next, she would face it. Together, ending. Hook. A distant, chilling howl cut through the night, different from any she had heard before, more deliberate, more dangerous. Ilara's eyes snapped open. The pulse of the mark quickened, and Kale's amber eyes glowed brighter. "They are not done with us," he said. "This is only the beginning."